Alright, here's the VOD review I promised you. So, first thing I want to point out is the team comp. This is fine, it's what we talked about. What I want to bring up here, because I know it becomes somewhat of an issue later on in the match, is I want to remind you, you don't have a main tank. So what that means is that you're going to have to rely on Zarya's bubbles and Diva's defense matrix to engage on the enemy without getting picked, without, dying first. Normally you would have a Reinhardt, he would hold right click and walk you in behind his shield, wouldn't be a problem, but you don't have that right now. So you're going to have to carefully micromanage your bubbles and defense matrix to ensure that people don't die before the fight breaks out. And that's what's going to be tricky about this. I'm only bringing this up because I know it becomes a tiny bit of an issue once the game starts. So let's start watching.
Okay.
Turn this up a little bit.
Would it go through here?
Okay, they're all in the high ground.
Okay.
They have a junk. I'm just spamming the Rhine shield.
Are you gonna get the mega inside the building?
You want to go under
Yeah,
them?
I've already got the mega. I'm grabbing the mini off by the point
You
right
can go
now.
under them on the right, guys.
So here, what happened is, of course, Lyris got picked. This is partially due to what I was saying before about the fact you don't have a main tank to walk you into the choke and to protect you before the fight starts. So it's partly due to that, but also you were just sitting in the choke too long. It's a totally acceptable strategy to, peek into the choke point, see what the enemy has, and then come back and decide on a plan of attack. But what you did was you peeked, and then you just stayed in the choke point. And standing in the choke point is never where you want to be, because they have the advantageous position. Here, let me make this red. They have the advantageous position here on the high ground. You can see it back there. And you guys are down here. You're stuck in a choke. It's not good, and this is going to happen if you stand there for too long, and that's what you did. So that's why Lyris is dead now. You should have either backed off to make a plan or committed to a push one way or the other.
Blizzard's down, I got you.
Oh, crap.
Oh god, I'm lagging.
I actually wouldn't have rezzed that because you're very close to your spawn. It's a 30-second cooldown for what would have been a 10-second respawn for Lyris to get back, but,
Why did this have to happen?
That's fine. Just
I'm
don't
behind
push
Mercy
right now.
in the building now.
Right here is a tricky situation because Zebra is low. You could theoretically melt the Reinhardt if his team doesn't come to assist him, which I don't remember if they do. The safe play would be to back out of this room right here, and again reassess the situation and commit to a push. Right now, we know they have a Junkrat, so you probably don't want to be pushing in through this room anyways, to be totally honest. What I would do is call to disengage here and just try again through the main choke point. Maybe go back around there or just go through mid. One of those options. What you're doing now is it's a plan that you have, but it doesn't work out.
I'm having really bad lag spikes. Why does this have to happen to me?
Back up a bit. Back up a bit. Go main choke again. They have a Junkrat. We don't stand a chance there.
I'm on 150.
That's a good call. That's correct.
I think they backed off from the chokes. Definitely need to check this.
Okay, they got one.
So this is back to what I was talking about before. You're standing in the choke when you don't have a main tank. Even right now, Zebra is out of his mech. So right now, you've only really got one tank on your team, and it's not a main tank. You shouldn't be standing in the choke, at least not how you're doing it. I get wanting to poke, but you're playing a little bit too aggressively here, I would say.
I'm pushing my mega to tease me out.
Watch out behind you, Mercy.
Now, to be fair, they are giving you a lot of space here, so it's okay that you're taking it now that I think about it, but you really don't want to commit to anything until Zebra has his mech back.
Back off, Mercy.
I am.
I don't know.
Hey, Zebra, could you move forward with me here?
They're ulting.
Oh, he doesn't have mech.
Okay, so this is a tricky situation here, because what we're looking at is Reinhardt has just charged into you guys alone. He should die now, theoretically. He has the bubble supporting him. If this Riptire wasn't here, you could probably turn around, kill this Reinhardt, and go back into the fight as a 5v6. But because this Riptire is here, I'm just going to have to see what happens.
Make my bed.
Coming in.
I got you.
Soldiers and there.
Where are you?
Junk's flanking. He's on stairs.
Where's your body? Oh, hi.
Good ball.
Nice,
Who's about to pick?
Good fit.
Okay.
It's down.
Get me
Alright,
healed.
we can. No, don't hit me. Don't hit me.
Okay. So this is the same thing that I just described, but you guys are in even better of a position to capitalize on it. You can see he's getting bubbled when he's going in. That's fine. He's getting a little bit of support from his team. But separate from that, he's charging in alone. Now, you may or may not have thought that he might have Earth Shatter this fast. He's just getting it, so it's totally fair that you wouldn't expect him to have Earth Shatter. Regardless, you should all be turning around now, fighting the Reinhardt. The Reinhardt should be the person you're trying to fight right now.
Soldier's dead.
Hey, get this Ryan here.
Okay.
Get this Ryan here.
That's an unfortunate Earth Shatter. So here's what I notice here. Firefly and Froyo have they're fragging out on point. That's fine. It works out. You are currently taking advantage. I don't know if you mean to be. You're taking advantage of the fact that the enemy team is totally spread out. Their entire tank presence, the reason they were able to hold the point without getting killed, is now over here in a 4v2. So that works out. I would have actually peeled back first I would have had Froyo and Firefly actually come back and help kill the tanks first, and then fight here with the DPS and supports. That still would have been favorable, and it just would have been more of a snowball. But this works out in the end, because you 4v2 the tanks, they don't stand a chance, and then you've got 2 DPS just going ham on their squishies. So that works out.
Most of the things in this game are dead. Zen popped. He's alone.
Go for Zarya. Go for
Push
Zarya.
up.
She's low.
Push up.
Hello?
Never mind.
That's a pick. Go in.
Let's go. Zarya.
The EMP here was unnecessary. That said, EMP charges really fast, so it's not a huge, you lost the game for us type thing. But the EMP was unnecessary.
Zarya low.
Go.
Keep going. Zenyatta.
Nice.
Where's the jump?
He's going up
Okay,
top.
stop.
Top.
He's in the room.
He's dead.
That's fine, dealing with the stagger.
Soldier,
It's all
right
good.
side.
Okay, good job, guys. That's fine.
So one of the points that I wanted to make here real quick is this was clean off of you guys for the most part, this take of the point, but it relied heavily on mistakes from the enemy team. The tanks overextended and the squishies didn't follow up at all on the enemy team. If that hadn't happened, if the tank was playing more defensively, if their Reinhardt hadn't charged in there, I don't think you would have taken the point here. I actually think they could have stalled it out another few minutes until you made an actual push. Because like I said, you were all standing in the choke. It took until your DPS fragged out behind the tanks because their tanks overextended for you guys to realize, oh, we should be on point now. So that's why you finally took it, is because the enemy made a mistake. You guys didn't make a play. The enemy made a mistake and you capitalized on it. Which, don't get me wrong, that's a fantastic skill to have. You should know when to capitalize on the enemy's mistakes, and you did it well here. But don't rely on that happening, because you might go against teams that don't make that mistake. So in the future, play a little bit more aggressive, make the push, try to decide when the fight happens. Because in this case, they decided when the fight happened, and they decided poorly, but you still gave them that potential advantage by not initiating.
You get him?
I didn't get
I
him.
definitely need to scrim you guys later.
Let's group up.
Nice job, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, good opening checks there.
Zarya's
Okay.
in building.
I got it.
Close. They're backing up. They're all behind the
Yeah,
red
they're
shield.
backing up in the road. I'm
We're
gonna.
close to. We're close to grab. Mango.
92.
All right.
Mercy's.
So this is actually good off of Froyo. He's controlling the high ground here.
here.
I would actually stay up. Okay, here. I'm going to pause this.
Reggie?
Froyo, you should be here. That's where you should be, because this, it does a few things. One, it controls the high ground. It makes it so that even if the other team wanted to, they couldn't be up here. because you're there. If they try to get up there in any way, you're going to be there to contest it. It just makes it too expensive to take that high ground to their advantage. So you should be there for that reason to begin with. But also, it gives you 2 directions of attack onto the enemy Reinhardt, which is more than likely going to have one of 2 effects. He is either going to back up this way so that he can still block both of the incoming directions of damage, or he's going to get confused about where his shield should be, make a mistake, and get himself or his squishies killed. At this level of play, I expect it to be the latter of those 2 things, so that's why you should be here. You should take advantage of the fact that Reinhardt can only shoot in one direction. You shouldn't have dropped back down here.
Actually, you're too far.
Let's wait for Firefly, and then we'll do our.
Oh shit, I got bodied by a drunk.
Did you?
Alright, Fizzy, can you go forward?
Soldier's going for high ground.
I can't see you, bro.
Soldier
ready
hat.
to ult
We
here?
can finish this. We can
I got
finish
you.
it.
Are we ready to ult here?
No, never mind. Never mind. Back
Yeah.
up.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna wait.
Soldier's getting me. I'm not ready. Not ready.
So
I need help.
here's another example of the enemy team made a mistake here, and you capitalized on it, but you gave them the potential advantage of choosing when the fight starts. You let their Zarya have a chance to grab you. You should have initiated the fight with maybe your own grab and Rocket's combo. And I know that's how you finish this fight, and it ends up working brilliantly, because if you'll look, right now, when their Zarya initiates the fight over here, her DPS is all the way back here. He's not going to be able to follow up. He's not going to be able to follow up. He might be able to follow up. He might be able to follow up. So the grab was very, very poor on their part, and you take advantage of that by coming in with the res, as I see in the kill feed, and you're able to roll back into them just like I suggested. But you gave them that potential advantage. If they hadn't made that mistake, that would have been a team wipe, and the push would have been ended right there. So try to be a little bit more aggressive.
Really bad.
Tell me when you're
Alright,
ready.
I'm good. I'm good. Whenever you're ready.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. Just what you wanted.
Good work.
Zenyatta's coming
Behind
around.
you, behind that. Hey, Burns.
You ulted for no reason.
Yeah, there's Zen.
Whatever,
Totally
just
wasted his
Kill him
ult there.
Kill him right after. Don't let him get away.
Trading an ult for 6 seconds of stall, not worth
Killing
it.
I'm pushed up.
I love doing that.
They have no grab either, so this is
Oh,
really
that's
good.
true.
Did you eat grab?
Okay, so Froyo, real quick, another tip for you. Right now, you are doing the correct thing. You are playing around the high ground that is the LA County Jail. That's perfect. You're at a position that's harder for them to hit you than it is for you to hit them. What I don't like is what you're doing with this advantage. You're pelting the Rhine shield, which is okay, you know, that's productive, but you could be getting more value out of this. You see the soldier was right back here, and he's really the only threat to you right now, especially at this angle when you're controlling the high ground that he has no chance of getting up to. So what you should be doing is dropping down and playing
They might
closer
have-
to this high ground, just like this. And I know you're doing it now, but you go back to not doing this in a few seconds. You should be doing this and pelting into that soldier. Because, you know, you can hit the wall behind him and he can't even hit you at all. You should take advantage of that, scare him, make him go back here. It lets you control more space. It makes it harder for them to get a position to then contest the cart in a few minutes. So this is what you should be doing. You should do this more.
Shatter
Pop
them.
out, bro. Pop out. I can't see you.
Alright, watch out
I
there.
got EMP. I'm gonna pop it if they try to come back out before we get close.
Alright, yeah, if they contest
nope.
this, go for it.
So I misremembered it. You did actually chase the soldier back in just like I wanted you to. What I don't like is you used thrusters for that. That was really, really bad. You shouldn't have used thrusters there because it didn't do anything for you. It made it easier for the soldier to hit you. It effectively removed the advantage you had from the high ground, and it put your most powerful ability on cooldown. It was kind of a waste, to be honest. Sorry if that's a little bit harsh. You're playing really well, I promise. But that particular ability usage was a waste. You shouldn't have done that.
3,
Kill the Zarya.
2, 1.
Kill the Zarya. She's low. No shield.
Go for Mercy. She's one with Valkyrie. Nice. Good kill, Mercy. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Alright, that's checkpoint.
This is pretty clean.
Hey, Junkrat going high ground?
Yeah, he went for me.
Good Junkrat low? Okay.
Could have been a little bit cleaner, but it only had to do with target priority and
Zarya
positioning,
low,
to be
Zarya
honest.
low. Soldier low.
Then you're on the right side of
He's being
town.
healed by Zen though.
I'm gonna hold the part with.
I'm up top. How close for you to drive?
Only 53.
Alright.
I'm not getting too much energy right now.
So this is good. You're taking the space that they're giving you.
I want them zero
If
deaths
you
too.
had stayed back on the cart this whole time, they might have been able to contest
So
here.
you guys better be
But
winning them right now.
because you guys come up here
Gonna have to put
preemptively
around right
and start
now?
claiming
Hold on,
space in
take-
front of the
take-
cart,
Oh, shit.
they end up fighting you back here. That's like a whole
Lines up.
push's worth of
Oh,
space, all
right.
because you just walked forward a few extra feet.
He's probably
Soldier one
shatter.
side.
So
Soldier
that was
definitely
good.
has ult. He hasn't popped it at all this game.
Yeah, he did. He popped
He
it
popped
in.
it
Oh,
when
did
I
he?
ran. Yeah.
Very- Oh, but he popped it.
While we're on the subject of
fly out,
ults,
fly out.
the Reinhardt has ult. You
Reinhardt
should know the
again?
Reinhardt has ult, so you shouldn't be clumping together without some plan to
Yeah.
bait out the Reinhardt ult.
Alright,
Alright.
I'm almost EMP.
Watch out for
have,
the shatter.
Ryan's alone.
It's a good call.
Zarya low, Zarya low.
I'm discorded. I'm backing off.
Zarya super low.
Oh, damn. Good
guys.
speed drop.
I have my ult here. Never mind.
I'll be able
Shouldn't
to
have popped
heal
Valk
Hey, just
there.
reset here, reset here. They use every single ult on the planet.
They
Yeah,
out
they
ulted
did.
you after
I'm
sound
back.
barrier, which is in your
Capping,
favor.
by the way?
Sound barrier got out and
Alright,
extra DPS ult from them. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Alright, we got another combo here. Let's
Shouldn't
do
have
this.
popped Valk though. I think that was
Alright, let's
sub though,
wait,
so
let's wait.
whatever.
Regroup.
Yeah, we
We can use all three of these, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll take the point.
Alright,
I like this. You're making a plan. That's good.
We
I
just
We
do.
just used it.
Oh, right.
Gonna shoot it here.
Okay, I'm gonna initiate the.
That's perfect.
3, 2, 1.
Discorded.
Oh crap.
This was
Oh,
beautiful.
no,
I loved
my
this.
bad, my bad.
That's fine. You guys can still do it.
It was good communication. You mechanically outplayed
matter.
them.
Soldier.
The initiation was clean. It was just a really good push.
I'm at the door.
Okay,
That was
lock the door,
fantastic.
lock the door.
Nice.
Good fucking round.
shit.
Good job.
Hey, good game, guys.
What do you mean?
Great game.
Good round. We still got a game to play.
Good round.
Okay.
Am I going far on defense?
Skip forward a
Yes.
little bit.
I'm comfortable with that.
Oops.
Okay.
I'd rather be.
My ping doesn't change, but my run.
So as you were discussing,
Okay, I
or maybe
say
that
that
hasn't
if
happened yet.
we
Let's wait.
lose first point, maybe we should. Well, I don't know. I was thinking about switching comps up for the second one. We can try this and see how it works.
Zarya Hanzo would be cool here better, honestly. But that's me.
I'm gonna go for some pod shots if you want to damage boost me. For some free
Yeah, I got
charge.
you. Bam.
I'm gonna hold closer to the
I fell on the
point.
wrong side. Don't follow me.
I followed you.
Okay.
Winston, Mercy, Diva.
Yeah, fair too.
Yeah, let's not go too far forward.
We don't have a lot to kill the Pharah unless she's really bad, and then I can air shot her twice.
Winston's
Winston
dive.
coming in. Winston
jump.
coming in.
Where are you, Farah?
Careful.
Emphasis Winston.
This is
Mercy
this
tax
is
coming in.
that's sort of bad. At a higher level of play, that Winston would have died there. You would have burned him down faster. I can't tell from this view whether it was because it was just a lack of mechanical skill or a lack of target focus. I can't quite tell from this view. The Winston probably should have died there, though. He jumped in. He had no reason to be there. He was taking so much unnecessary space. His entire team was still on the other side of the choke. He probably should have died there. But by the time you actually started focusing any meaningful amount, he had the Mercy heal on him. He had the defense matrix on him. It's too late.
Coming in.
They got a Farah of their own.
I'm on soldier. He's half. Soldier's half. Low.
Now here's something. Here's something. You are playing. No, you're not yet. I'm sorry. That's not yet. Never mind.
Push down. I'm getting
Not
dive.
anymore.
Fair is half or low.
D-Mac right here. D-Mac, I'm at.
There's one.
Like 3 of us are down. Be careful, guys. Both healers are down.
Right here.
I think we lost the point. Just back up.
Yeah, just back.
Do we want to swap out to deal with the Pharaoh?
Yeah, we should probably get like 3 or something.
They actually
not super
dove
good
you
at hits
pretty
games, though.
effectively there. They're playing dive, and they did that pretty
Alright,
effectively. They
let's
initiated
do
the
that.
fight, they
You got
hit
the
the
switch
target, they
before,
burned
we
you
capped
down,
those, so
and moved
we
on to
should
the
be good.
next.
I'm mostly
that
with all you guys, so.
I'm gonna go high ground.
Right here. This is
Yeah.
bad. You guys are
You guys
split.
are
You are split right down the middle here. This is not good. You do not want to be in this position. If they saw this, they could steamroll into Zebra and just totally wipe out half the team in a 3v6. Then they go to the other side and do the same thing. This is really, really bad. You need to be together. Someone should call for
They're
that.
Winston, or the Diva.
Is
They're
it Diva
both,
over here?
actually. They're
Again,
both
this
good.
Winston should
Ladder.
probably be dead. The Diva is not protecting him.
Sniping me. She really
I'm on
Mercy
Mercy.
out in the front here.
If anybody can get eyes on Mercy.
This Diva, he's behind all you guys.
Okay, Mercy down.
I'm gonna contest the payload here. Need some people here.
I'm right above you. I got picked.
No, you don't. You don't need to contest the payload yet. You need to get kills and then you need to contest the payload. I know it's counterintuitive because the meme is, C9, you chased kills instead of standing on the objective. I know that's the meme, but realistically, if the other team isn't dead, you don't need to contest the payload. I mean, that's as a rule of thumb. If you're in overtime, that's a different story because obviously you need to be touching the payload to keep the game going. But the most important thing is to make sure the fight is won, and then you can claim the space around the objective. So you got a little itchy on the trigger finger there.
Diva, can you fly up there?
Zenyatta.
I have no boost.
Far, where are you? Actually,
Out of mech, out of mech.
I still have use for you. My ultimate is ready.
She's low. There.
Got her.
Got my grab here.
Right. This was another thing that I saw in Lyris's VOD. You could have staggered that Diva. It's hard to see from this point of view, but you could have booped her back with a Lucio boop, held defense matrix on her for 2 seconds, booped her back again with a Lucio boop, or with a Diva thruster boop, and then done the other one. If you booped her back with a Lucio boop her with a thruster boop. You could have done that. That would have been a lot of coordination to actually take it that far, but it would have been worth trying. Someone should have called for it and at least gotten a few seconds of stall out of it. I wouldn't actually expect you guys to be able to do that level of Diva staggering, but you should try to stagger Divas in the future. Because, if you're keeping her there, she can't deal any meaningful amount of damage. She's just going to charge your healer's ult charge, and she's not getting ult charge herself when she's out of mech, so there's no reason to kill her if it's just going to make it take longer for her to respawn.
It's staggered.
I'm up top.
Alright.
Mercy,
Don't
if
use
you want.
every single
Now, I
ult
did
here,
this.
or try
I started
that.
spectating Firefly specifically
Try
because
the
I was
grab,
curious about
we
his
can-
aim.
Yeah, great.
And when I noticed your
you guys might wanna keep
crosshair
that
placement
first.
is a bit off.
Actually,
Your
yeah,
aim
true.
tends to be
True.
pretty good. But see, right here, they're coming out of this door. Let me see if I can make this brush a little smaller. Nope, I can only make it bigger. They're coming out of this door here. So your crosshair should be here. And conveniently, that would be right on top of Zenyatta's head right now. But instead, it's down here. So crosshair placement is just generally, it's the rule you want to follow. You want to keep your crosshair as close to where you think the enemy's head is going to be as possible at any given moment. So if you know they're either coming from over here or through this door, you should put your crosshair somewhere around here, which, lo and behold, that's where the Zenyatta is right now. But instead you're going to have to flick to him, which is, it's just a tiny little thing that affects your aim. So just work on your crosshair placement a little bit.
Then you guys can do it.
They're soldier, or they're
Game plan, take Diva out of mech, I'll do the grab.
Good suppression here, okay?
I have.
Where are they headed? I don't know where they
I
are.
have. You got it.
They're just grouping up.
it's up. He's up.
I
High
could-
ground, high ground.
I got
Well,
pushed
actually,
up.
This thing's in the
try
back.
to beat out Zenyatta.
focusing me.
Can
I
someone
guess
try
I
to
focused on
beat
Firefly for
Transcendence?
too long here.
Winston
I would
ulted.
have liked to see
Wait
this
for
fight
Winston,
from
dude.
the whole team's point of view. I can't give too much advice because I did that.
I did not see the
My
bar.
bad. The beat drop.
Winnable.
Oh, nice Diva ult.
No, it wasn't really winnable because you
Yeah,
know the
but it's
Mercy
real
probably
bad.
still has res,
Coming back.
even if it's in Valk
Yeah,
form.
alright.
And
I'll res you.
I mean, you use beat drop when you were down two,
Alright,
basically.
back
It's
up.
it wasn't
Unless you can
really
get it really quick
a
on the
winnable
respawn.
fight. Shouldn't have committed ults to
Alright,
it.
we can
Holy
test
shit.
here.
The
Test.
best. Pop it whenever you're ready. I don't think we can. Yeah,
not
do it
now.
now.
I can get out of it.
Yeah, you're
Close.
committing
She
too
got
many
back in.
ults to
No
this
Zen, no
fight.
Zen. This is an easy
I'm
grab
dead
now, once
now.
we're alive.
I'm dead now, though, yeah.
So you used a lot of ults
Alright,
and
we'll
you lost the
contest right
fight.
before they
They
take
used
second,
more, to be
hopefully.
fair. They did use
Okay.
more ults. I didn't
Come back,
notice that
come
the
back.
first time I was watching the VOD.
Alright, as soon as
But
I
still,
come
you
out,
shouldn't
I'll
use
try.
that many ults in one loss
Hey,
fight.
go contest.
Ow.
That's
Fuck, I
unfortunate.
couldn't contest it and have. I didn't
Diva
have my-
probably could have held
enough.
defense matrix up and walked you out to the payload with a speed boost. But that didn't happen.
Okay, we'll
It's
do
just a
it here.
coordination thing. It'll come with more synergy in
Alright.
practice.
I'm gonna grab you.
Good rest.
Also very clean. Good
Zen
job.
in the back, he's low. Finish him off.
You chased Zen. That's also good.
The top. Her mech is super low. Super low.
Where? Like up top behind
Okay,
us.
careful, don't hold too close to their spawn.
None of this
Yeah,
can be
careful.
taken.
Hold on, sir.
Yeah.
Wait, where's the Diva?
She's healed up now.
Yeah.
I thought she was behind us. So I didn't get that right.
She was, but
discorded.
I duped her.
Lyris is out of position here. She's too far
Careful,
up.
Winston. Focus,
Should be
Winston.
back behind the
I'm
tanks.
getting.
Alright, I want Diva,
Zebra,
she's
you're
low.
also out of position right now. You're inside of the whole enemy team.
She's low.
Yeah.
I'll res you. Never
This is
mind.
unfortunate.
Oh, I'm screwed.
What's the opening?
Jesus.
I think the only thing you really could have done there is been more careful about not being in a
Alright,
place that the Pharah
you
could have
might have
ulted you.
If you see the Pharah, just shoot her. Just ignore everything else and shoot the Pharah, because I'm having a hard time with my direct hits.
Alright.
Enemy contact. I know you can do
Soldiers up
The
top.
thing about Pharah is
Winston's out.
she's really, really powerful right now in the meta because she's so hard to hit and she has such high damage output. But you can play around the map in such a way that it makes it harder for her to get value out of her rockets. For instance, if you had all been at a slightly different angle around the pillar, playing around the Pharah, if you had known she was there, or just recognized the fact that she has ults, she might be trying to use it, you could have played around the pillars back at that point in the map. She wouldn't have gotten as much value out of her ult. I'm sure she would have gotten at least one kill the way that fight was going. But in general, you don't need to kill the Pharah to deal with her. You know, a combination of bubbles, defense matrix, any sort of tank abilities, and just playing around the map can really make the difference. For instance, if she's pelting rockets into you from out here, stand over here. You don't have to stand in the path of the rockets. You don't have to rely on the tanks. You can stand here, peek out, shoot back a little bit, and then peek back. It's all good. You don't have to kill the Pharah to deny her value.
Need health if you can jump to me.
Yeah.
Popped.
Nice.
Thought they're going for me. Damn.
On Zen. Zen's low. Zen's low, guys.
Mercy's low.
Oh, not
She's
anymore.
doing her shit.
Correct.
No contest.
By the time you started calling targets, it was too late.
You guys did it.
That's all I'm going to say about that fight.
Yeah, around the same time.
You should all try to be a little bit more aware
You guys wanna
of
try
the
something else or
ultimate
keep trying the
economy.
same
Try
thing?
to... Okay, so I want to preface this. This is something I was actually very happy to see.
Mercy
You
G,
guys are actually making an attempt to track enemy ultimates, and that's fantastic. I play at diamond level, and most of the time my team still doesn't try to track enemy ultimates. I have to do it. It's something as simple as saying, hey, the Reinhardt might have Shatter, or hey, their Mercy might have Valk. That's fantastic. The fact that you guys are doing that is great, and it made me really happy to see that you already understand the basics of that. But try to do it more. It's better to wrongly assume that an enemy has ult than it is to falsely assume that they don't. So try to predict their ultimates more, and then don't just recognize that they have them. If you've got the time that you can afford, try to make a plan to deal with those ultimates. You know, if you have Sound Barrier in your pocket, say, hey, I'm going to specifically Sound Barrier for Tac Visor, and you should specifically use Transcendence for Genji Blade. That way you don't accidentally blow both of them on the same DPS ult, right? So make a plan to deal with the enemy ultimates. Don't just respect that the enemy has them, although the fact that you already do that is fantastic. That's probably better than what the other team was doing, to be honest. I bet the enemy team did very little ult tracking for you guys. That's why they lost a lot of their fights.
Duel, and the rest of us just run them over, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm out of practice with Farah duels though, so I'm not
Alright,
feeling the
let's see how
directness
it
right now.
goes.
I'll try to help you out with hacks, so we can at least keep the mercy off of her.
And Eva, you can dive a Farah and do a lot. Like you just fly at the Farah while doing your rockets and whatnot, and it works really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll try Zen to keep her discorded too.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
If it doesn't work well though, let me know if you need me to switch
So I
back.
gotta emphasize something. I believe this is where I saw a little bit of the trouble with the not having a main tank. You don't have a Lucio, which just inherently means you're going to be spending more time sitting in the choke point. Even if you're not trying to, you're going to spend more time in the choke point instead of on the other side of the choke point. So you really have to make use of defense matrix and bubble to keep
Discord's
people
anyway, so
alive.
it's a little less damage.
Otherwise, you're going to get picked and
Wanna
it's not
just
going to
go
end
main
well.
here, or I'll just go main here.
They're holding Farah back,
Yep, there's the Farah.
Okay.
dropping.
Let's just walk up here.
Yeah, no reason not to.
Yeah. I'm about to be on 10.
Can we hit Winston here? Oh, we hit this. Farah is kind of low. Need you in the front, Zebra.
Dead.
Zen on me in the back.
Got their res.
Diva almost no mech. Diva almost no mech. Diva almost no mech. On Farah, she's half. Really low.
Got really grainy here. I'm not sure why.
I'm on Mercy inside the building, inside Cafe. She dove out back.
Diva no
I'm
mech.
whiffing
no
hard
mech.
right now.
Now again,
Oh
I
my
spent
God.
too much time spectating one
Actually,
person,
so
and
much.
I was gonna talk about bubble,
Try to get Mercy.
the bubble
Yeah,
timing,
she's
but
low
I
in the
think
room.
it's just
Low
kind
in
of
the room.
mechanical. You know,
Shoulder
the
right.
actual
Yeah,
physical
Zen's
timing of
respawn.
okay,
Zen,
this is when the
Zen,
rocket's
Zen.
gonna hit. I gotta press right. I gotta press shift or
Alright,
E
we got one.
now.
Now.
So that's just practice that a little bit.
You stole my gold objective kills.
I spent
I
too
took
much
it,
time
sorry.
spectating one person there, so I can't give too much advice on that push. That's my bad.
My ultimate is almost ready.
So we'll try maybe. Did you use your barrage already?
No, I'm at 78.
Okay, let's try a hack.
I'll
trap then.
help out a little.
They're up
They're on
top.
high ground on the far roof.
All right, let's
Like
just
all of
keep
them.
staying here on the payload.
You probably
Let's
don't
do a
need
hack.
rocket barrage and grav. You could probably
When they die
EMP
down, I'm
and
gonna
grav and
compete.
just pelt them with
Winston's
rockets, and that would
jumping.
probably
We
be
have to
fine.
be on the
Just stay on
payload,
the
though,
Winston's a
guys.
hello.
Stay on the payload. No C9s. Soldier on the left. Soldier on the left. Which
God. Farah, where are you?
I'm up in the air, sorry.
Winston in
Stay
the
on the point,
back.
stay on the point, stay on the point, stay on the point.
I get divin every time.
Diva's low.
Crap.
Then
Y'all died with a lot of ults in your pocket. It's really too bad.
Yeah.
Again, I was spectating one
Oh,
person
shit,
a
I
little
didn't
bit too much, but I
test.
have a
That
feeling
was my
it'll
bad.
come down to what I was
Okay,
saying
that's fine.
before
We
about
hold,
letting the enemy
first
choose
point.
when the
Let's
fight
switch
happens,
to
because
our-
it let them
let's switch to our dive
ult
drop.
first, which
Okay.
inherently means they'll likely get the first
So,
kill,
I get a dodge.
which inherently means they're more likely to win
no,
the fight.
you're
I
still
think
gonna be on
that's what
Mercy.
happened.
Mango, you can go Silver Tracer again, do whatever you want. Or you can go Pharaoh Tracer.
I was thinking Tracer.
So you should have been
I'm
more
going
proactive
Winston
about
and
throwing out a
everybody
grab,
else.
throwing out an EMP, and killing everybody. Probably could have gotten you through
dive.
most of the rest of Streets phase if you had done that.
Susie, could you stay on Diva, please? Thank you.
We're gonna be diving them on fence.
Yeah, just gotta hold out for 2 minutes.
Alright, so here's the thing about
They haven't had
defensive
a
dive,
melee at all,
alright?
so I'm not really worried
You
about
have to
Yeah,
disengage,
yeah.
because when you're diving,
takes
it is
long to beat.
a
think we need-
massive advantage to start the fight, because in dive, people die so fast that when you start the fight, you probably already have a kill. If you're doing it right, that's how it works. So when you dive, you don't want them to start the fight. If they try to start the fight, you need to back up and start the fight again yourself. I'll show you what I mean when it
Be worried
actually
about
breaks out.
Farah, though. Like, can we dive?
But it's why they
Farah?
establish point control, is you don't disengage, you just let them engage onto you.
Yeah,
I think-
just dive against Mercy. Jesus. Because
I don't know. I think it'll be all right. Just don't. I would say don't worry about holding the choke so much, and like draw them in point and then dive on once they get here.
That is just exactly correct.
I'm taking soldier because I feel safe.
I'm gonna hang out with Mango on high ground back here.
I'm gonna be healing Winston a lot.
I appreciate that.
I can already tell.
Saying hi to Froyo.
Careful up there for you.
I have a Farah.
All right. Hopefully my aim's gonna warm up in time here.
You have a tracer going back.
Okay, careful. You
Zebra,
gotta
you
hold
They're all
were
going back.
you were really out of position here. I don't actually think you meant to be there. I think you were up top and you accidentally fell down, and maybe your thrusters were on cooldown or something. I think that's what happened. But you were definitely out of position there. That's very unfortunate.
They're diving me.
You should have been back here on point,
Getting
maybe
chased
even
by
in cafe with the rest of your
We
team.
got 2 down, guys.
See what you're doing here? You're letting them initiate onto you. Firefly has jumped in with his team being slightly down. Their divas diving your squishies in the back. What you should be doing is pulling back either to here or to the other side of cafe, and then you want to re-engage onto the point from one of those directions, because that will give you the advantage when you're playing dive.
We got this. We got this.
Good job.
We're 2 down,
I'm getting
2.
chased. I need
Down
help.
in the back line. No mech diva in the back. No mech diva. She's low. Winston's low. Everyone's low.
See, they just ran a more
We
effective
weren't
dive
on
here.
point. We just needed to be on point with that comp. We were all spread out. That
Yes,
Baron
the minute
wants
and a
to
half
have the
stall
point. We
you
didn't have
guys
enough
pulled
people
off.
there.
It was really impressive to watch,
Fair and
actually.
Mercy were dead.
Let's
Focus.
let's focus on getting back in.
Back up. Are we going back in? I think we're going back
Okay,
in.
back up. You going in? Okay. You go in.
I think
and
it's
have
worth
my
a
ult soon.
try.
We're going in.
I have my ult soon. Keep contesting.
Mercy's weak in the back.
Mercy's super lit.
Really weak.
I'm gonna ult here.
This
Mercy
was,
down. Mercy
this
down.
was
Mercy
actually
down.
really, really good. This looked pretty good at first. I was about to think that maybe you guys are actually going to retake this. I mean, you regrouped really effectively, minus Zebra being out of mech, but you had to give him something to keep him from steamrolling into Streets phase before the point was capped. I actually thought you were going to retake, but it's unfortunate that you didn't. I think they just mechanically outplayed you for the most part. And even then, you still got the stall off, so, whatever. But I think that's why they maintained point control.
Potential.
Keep diving.
I need health. Oh, I didn't press Q in time.
Fair and Tracer down.
We gotta focus the Winston and the Diva. They're just focusing the crap out of your heals right now.
We're still contesting that.
I've got ult here. I can contest a while.
I have a bomb.
See, what Lyris was asking for to focus the dive tanks, that's not quite what you want to do. There's a difference between focusing, which is when you pick a target and you burn them down, and peeling, which is when one of your people gets engaged on either by a flanker or a dive tank or pretty much anybody, you send someone back to make that duel a 2v1. And then the rest of the fight keeps happening, but that person gets burned down in a 2v1, in an unfavorable duel, that they likely committed to with the mobility ability that they now don't have to disengage with. So for instance, when their Winston dived on top of Lyris, looking at your team comp, Zebra and Froyo, or just one of you, should have turned around when Lyris called for help. I actually wasn't listening if Lyris called for help early on enough, and started also attacking the Winston. That would have made it a 2v1 with Winston at the disadvantage. And that either would have scared him away, keeping your healer alive, or it would have killed the Winston flat out. Then you could have gone back to the fight, and nothing's lost except for the enemy team. So that's what peeling is. You can call for a peel as a support. Don't be afraid to do that. If you're getting dove by pretty much anyone, just say the words, "peel for me," and if they're paying attention and doing their jobs right, someone whose job it is to peel for you, so in this case it would be either Froyo or Zebra, at that point in time, would turn around, use their mobility to get over to you, and help you with the fight. And that's how peeling should work. So don't be afraid to call for peels.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I'm almost dead. Almost done here.
I whiffed my
I'm
bomb.
messing you. If I can fucking fly in.
Mercy discorded. Mercy discorded. Mercy
dead, I'm
discorded.
dead.
I'm out of here. Jesus.
Diva's low.
Lucio dead?
Back.
Now, here's the thing about this. When it got to 20 seconds left, I would have stopped committing ultimates to this. It's just not worth it at this point. Because if you think about it, they've got 20 seconds left. If they capture the point right now, it's going to be an overtime by the time it gets to here. And you have all the way to back here. That you can't really see that too well. You have all the way back here in Streets phase to stop them. So you should save the ultimates that you just used, which was Pulse Bomb and Transcendence and wait to fight them here. Because then they're going to be in overtime. That's when you have the advantage because they have to stay on cart. They're going to be clumped up. They are under the pressure. Right here, you're just... It's like... What's a better way to describe it? It's going to be in overtime for this fight, whether you use these ultimates or not. So there's not really a point in using these ultimates. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you can ask me in person.
Good job. Good job. Good stall. Good job. Good job.
Oh, I got hit with the barrage.
Can we still hold or no?
That was so close.
It's alright, we
almost
just
had
gotta
that.
hold them off point one
Yeah, let's
time.
back up.
They're already in overtime.
Now, if they were smarter, they would have staggered Zebra there, and they might have actually been able to make the last fight a 5v6 and win. They didn't do that, so you got a little bit lucky there.
You guys should have just went
Winston's up top, I think. I heard him dive. Or no, it was Arch. Never mind. Let me.
What you don't want to do here is panic and engage too early, because you've
Okay,
got up
alright,
until
alright,
here,
alright.
so you don't want to panic.
Alright, I'm diving in.
You've
3,
got
2,
time.
1.
You've got time for the regroup. Oh, right. This was a really, really bad misplay off of Firefly. No offense. You've been playing great up till now. But you called for the dive, which was good. But a few things. One, you never called a target that you were going to dive, so no one knows who you're going after or how to assist you. You don't even know if Lyris is able to put Discord on them, or... This is the other thing. You broke line of sight with your healers for that dive, which is really, really bad, because you have zero support with how you just went in. When I was watching this live, I actually really thought that you were going to die, the last fight was going to be a 5v6, and you were going to lose this match. So definitely work on that for your tank play. Don't put yourself in a position where you can't get out until it's too late, like you did here. Definitely try to be more organized. Like I said, you have all this time. You could wait till the card is here, where Lyris is, and then you could dive in from back here when everybody has line of sight, and you can really start to pick at their healers like that. But you went too early. You broke line of sight. You didn't call a target. It was a misplay. They happened, but it was a misplay. So work on that a little bit.
Eva?
I
Focus
don't know if I
Eva.
can heal you. If I heal
Fuck
you,
Eva.
I'm like, fucking... I'll get Divin. if I-
I'm on Mercy. Mercy
I need-
1.
Thank you.
Any heals bad?
It's just Winston. Just
I need
Winston,
heals.
guys. Just Winston.
So here's where I was really, really impressed. You managed to
She's low,
mechanically outplay the enemy team here, despite being at a positional disadvantage.
GG.
And I was genuinely very impressed. This was your synergy showing and your mechanical skill showing, and you did a fantastic job at the end, all of you. So I'm very
I don't think we
glad
would've
you
got
won that.
if we didn't go for the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually very nice. Dom.
Pay homage to Froyo's play of the game here.
I'm surprised they didn't add that.
I think we'll end it.
Yeah, wait. I was surprised too.
Oh my god.
Nice y'all.
All right. So that is my VOD review of the Hollywood map. If anyone has any specific questions, feel free to @ me or contact me in BNet or whatever, however you feel comfortable. I can answer any questions you want. There you go.